Real transformation does not begin with effort, information, or motivation. It begins with a decision so firm it removes alternatives. Most people negotiate with change instead of commanding it. They hope life will improve while protecting old identities. A real decision burns bridges behind you and forces movement forward. When the decision is clear, excuses lose power. You stop asking if it's possible and start acting as if it's required. Decisions reshape behavior before results appear. This is why 1 week can change everything. The moment you decide who you will no longer be, your future starts reorganizing itself around that choice. Indecision keeps people emotionally busy but spiritually stuck. When you hesitate, you leak energy. When you decide, energy consolidates. A powerful decision simplifies life because it eliminates internal debate. You stop needing external validation because clarity creates confidence. The strongest people are not those with the best circumstances, but those with the clearest commitments. Once a decision is made, discipline becomes easier because it now has direction. You don't wake up wondering what to do next. You already know. Clarity is not discovered. It is declared. And once declared, it demands alignment from your thoughts, habits, and environment. A decision is different from a wish because it carries responsibility. When you decide to accept ownership of the outcome, you stop blaming time, people, or conditions. Responsibility activates maturity, and maturity accelerates growth. This is why many avoid decisions, because decisions expose character. Once you decide to change, you see clearly where you've been inconsistent. That awareness can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is evidence of growth and progress. Decisions force honesty. They remove denial. They bring structure to chaos. The person you become in 7 days is shaped by the standards you enforce once the decision is made. Most people wait for certainty before deciding, but certainty follows decision, not the other way around. Confidence is built by movement, not contemplation. When you decide first and act second, belief strengthens with every step. Momentum replaces fear. The brain adapts to commitment by finding solutions. This is why decisive people seem lucky. They're not lucky, they're aligned. A week of decisive action rewires your self-image. You begin to trust yourself again. Self-trust is power. It eliminates hesitation. It sharpens focus. It teaches your mind that when you say something, you mean it. A weak decision is reversible. A strong decision changes identity. Identity-level decisions shift how you see yourself, not just what you do. When your identity changes, behavior follows automatically. You no longer rely on motivation because your actions are now expressions of who you believe you are. In 1 week, identity can shift through consistent proof. Each completed action becomes evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief reinforces identity. This loop is how people become unrecognizable, not through dramatic moments, but through quiet consistency rooted in a non-negotiable decision. The quality of your decision determines the quality of your discipline. Discipline without decision feels like force. Discipline with decision feels like alignment. You stop fighting yourself. You stop bargaining with comfort. Your calendar begins to reflect your priorities. Your conversations change. Your tolerance for distraction decreases. Decisive people protect their time because they understand time obeys clarity. When your decision is strong, your standards rise naturally. You no longer accept what contradicts your future. This internal shift is subtle but powerful. Others may not notice immediately, but the structure of your life is already changing. Decisions compress time. What takes years for the undecided can take days for the committed. This is why 1 week matters. A focused week under a strong decision can outperform months of half effort. When the mind stops wavering, energy flows efficiently. You move faster because you're not carrying mental resistance. Every action compounds. Every win builds momentum. The world responds differently to people who know what they want. Opportunities align with certainty. Confusion repels progress. Decision attracts it. This principle operates regardless of background, resources, or circumstances. When you decide, you step into authority over your own life. Authority changes posture, speech, and presence. You don't chase approval because you are anchored in purpose. Your actions become intentional. Your habits become strategic. The internal noise quiets down because direction has been set. This is why the first decision is always the hardest and the most important. Everything after becomes execution. The difference between who you were and who you are becoming is not time, talent, or luck. It is the moment you stopped negotiating and chose to move forward decisively. Most people underestimate identity because it feels invisible. You cannot measure it, touch it, or show it off, yet it governs everything. Identity is the collection of standards you tolerate and enforce. It decides what you say yes to, what you walk away from, and what you repeat daily. When standards are low, effort must be high. When standards rise, effort becomes efficient. You don't rise to what you want, you fall to what you accept. Change acceptance and results are forced to follow without constant motivation or external pressure because identity silently commands every repeated behavior over long periods. Identity answers questions before they are asked. Am I the kind of person who finishes things? Am I the kind who shows up early? Am I the kind who keeps promises? These answers guide action faster than logic. When identity is weak, you debate every decision. When identity is strong, decisions are automatic. This is why consistency improves when identity is upgraded. You no longer rely on willpower, you rely on alignment. Alignment removes friction. Friction wastes energy. Identity-focused change conserves energy and multiplies momentum without burnout by eliminating internal conflict and emotional resistance daily through intentional self-definition practices consistently. You cannot outperform the identity you protect. If you see yourself as inconsistent, you will unconsciously sabotage progress. If you see yourself as disciplined, discipline becomes normal. The mind works to stay consistent with self-image. This is why affirmations fail without action. Words without evidence feel dishonest. Evidence reshapes belief. Small actions completed repeatedly send a message to the mind. That message becomes identity. Identity then dictates future behavior. This loop compounds quietly and powerfully over time, shaping outcomes without constant effort or emotional struggle. People chase results because results are visible, but visibility is misleading. Results are symptoms, not causes. Fixing symptoms without addressing cause creates temporary change. Identity is the cause. When identity shifts, and behavior produces results naturally. This is why quick fixes fail. They ignore the root. Real growth feels slower at first because it begins internally, but once identity changes, progress accelerates rapidly. What once required force now requires maintenance. You stop pushing and start maintaining alignment. This is how 1 week of identity level action can outperform months of surface level effort. Your environment responds to who you believe you are. Opportunities, conversations, and responsibilities align with identity. When identity expands, your tolerance for small thinking shrinks. You no longer fit in spaces that once felt comfortable. This discomfort is evidence of elevation. Identity growth often feels like loss before it feels like gain. You lose old patterns, old excuses, and old limits. But what replaces them is capacity. Capacity to handle more pressure, more responsibility, and more reward. Without collapse or confusion, identity determines your relationship with difficulty. If you see yourself as fragile, obstacles feel overwhelming. If you see yourself as resilient, obstacles feel instructional. The same challenge produces different outcomes based on identity. This is why two people can experience the same week and leave with different results. One sees struggle as proof to stop, the other sees it as proof of growth. Identity interprets experience. Interpretation shapes emotion. Emotion fuels action. This chain determines whether pressure builds you or breaks you. When identity rises, excuses fall away naturally. You don't argue with distractions, you outgrow them. You don't fight old habits, you replace them. Identity makes certain behaviors unacceptable, not because someone said so, but because they no longer match who you are. This internal authority is powerful. It removes the need for external control. You become self-governed. Self-governed people move faster because they don't wait for permission, motivation, or validation to act in alignment with their standards. 1 week is enough time to prove a new identity to yourself. Proof builds belief. Belief solidifies identity. Identity reshapes results. This sequence cannot be rushed, but it can be initiated immediately. Every intentional action is a signal. Every completed commitment strengthens self-trust. Self-trust eliminates hesitation. When hesitation disappears, momentum appears. Momentum changes how you show up, how you speak, and how you decide. Results follow quietly at first, then suddenly because identity has already done the work. Clarity is the starting point of acceleration. Without clarity, effort scatters and energy leaks in every direction. People stay busy yet remain unchanged because they have not defined who they are becoming. Discipline without clarity feels heavy, but discipline with clarity feels purposeful. When you know exactly what you are building, sacrifice becomes meaningful. Clarity sharpens priorities and removes emotional confusion. It answers the question of what matters now. The moment clarity appears, excuses begin to disappear. Growth speeds up not because time increases, but because waste is eliminated and focus becomes intentional. Most frustration comes from vague goals and undefined standards. When goals are unclear, discipline feels optional. When standards are clear, discipline becomes non-negotiable. Clarity is not motivation, it is direction. Direction reduces resistance. Resistance drains energy. This is why people feel tired even when they are not productive. They are fighting uncertainty. Once clarity is established, effort becomes efficient. You stop guessing. You stop starting over. You stop reacting to everything. You move with purpose. Discipline then becomes a system, not an emotional struggle, because you are responding to direction rather than chasing feelings. Discipline is not about punishment. It is about alignment. It aligns your actions with your intentions and your habits with your identity. When discipline is missing, it is often because clarity is missing first. You cannot consistently execute what you have not clearly defined. Discipline thrives on specificity. Wake-up times, priorities, boundaries, and commitments must be clear. Vague intentions create weak discipline. Clear intentions create strong structure. Structure removes decision fatigue. When decisions are reduced, consistency increases. This is how growth accelerates without burnout or constant self-negotiation. Clarity simplifies life by narrowing focus. It tells you what to say no to before you say yes to anything. Discipline is easier when distractions are removed. You cannot discipline yourself into success while surrounding yourself with confusion. Clarity reorganizes your environment. It changes how you schedule your time and who you allow access to your attention. Discipline then protects that clarity. One defines the target, the other defends it. Together they create momentum. Momentum is what makes progress visible in short periods because consistent effort compounds rapidly. Many people mistake discipline for intensity. Intensity is emotional and inconsistent. Discipline is calm and repeatable. Clarity transforms discipline from force into flow. You no longer need to push yourself aggressively. You simply follow the structure you designed. This removes drama from growth. Progress becomes predictable. When clarity leads, discipline follows naturally. You stop relying on bursts of motivation. You operate from commitment. Commitment creates stability. Stability allows progress to stack daily without interruption or emotional fluctuation slowing the process. Clarity also exposes misalignment. It reveals habits that no longer fit your direction. This awareness can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is evidence of honesty. Discipline grows stronger when you confront misalignment instead of ignoring it. Each corrected action reinforces clarity. Each repeated action strengthens discipline. This feedback loop creates acceleration. You feel less resistance because you are no longer divided internally. Internal unity increases speed. When thoughts, actions, and goals align, progress feels lighter even when the work is demanding. When clarity is absent, discipline feels like self-control. When clarity is present, discipline feels like self-respect. You act not because you are forcing yourself, but because you value the future you are building. This shift changes your relationship with effort. Effort becomes an investment instead of a burden. Clarity reminds you why the work matters. Discipline ensures the work gets done. Together, they eliminate inconsistency, which is the greatest enemy of transformation. Consistency turns ordinary actions into extraordinary results over short periods. A focused week under clear direction can outperform months of scattered effort. Clarity compresses time by eliminating unnecessary actions. Discipline multiplies output by ensuring execution. When both operate together, growth accelerates rapidly. You begin to notice changes in confidence, posture, and decision-making. You move differently because you are no longer uncertain. Discipline keeps you anchored. Clarity keeps you aimed. This combination creates visible progress quickly because every action is intentional and every habit supports the same direction without internal conflict or wasted energy. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, but in reality, it is a strategy of strength. When you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim energy that was leaking through unnecessary conversation. Most people talk too much because they seek validation for decisions they are unsure about. Silence removes that dependency. It forces you to rely on your own conviction. In silence, your thoughts become clearer and your intentions sharpen. You begin to hear yourself again. Without constant external noise, your internal compass recalibrates. Silence creates space, and space creates power through clarity and emotional control. When you choose silence, you protect your focus. Focus is fragile in environments filled with opinions, advice, and commentary. Every explanation invites judgment, and judgment creates doubt. Silence blocks that cycle. It allows you to work without interference. Growth requires privacy before it earns visibility. Just like construction zones are fenced off, personal development needs boundaries. Silence builds those boundaries. It keeps your plans safe while they are forming. You do not expose unfinished ideas to unfinished minds. This protection allows focus to deepen and execution to strengthen without distraction. Silence also builds emotional discipline. When you stop reacting verbally to everything, you gain control over impulse. Most mistakes are made in moments of emotional expression. Silence slows reaction time. It creates a pause between stimulus and response. In that pause, wisdom grows. You become less reactive and more intentional. Emotional control is a form of power rarely discussed. Those who master silence master their emotions. This mastery translates into better decisions, stronger presence, and increased confidence. People feel your strength, not by what you say, but by what you withhold. Many people feel pressure to announce progress to feel productive. Silence removes performative growth. You stop working for applause and working for results. This shift changes your motivation. Internal motivation lasts longer than external praise. When no one is watching, you discover your true level of commitment. Silence reveals character. It exposes whether you can stay consistent without recognition. This is where real transformation happens. Quiet execution builds resilience. Resilience builds momentum. Momentum creates separation from those who need attention to remain disciplined. Silence strengthens focus by narrowing attention inward. Instead of managing perceptions, you manage priorities. Instead of defending choices, you refine them. This inward focus accelerates growth because energy is no longer divided. Divided energy slows progress. Silence consolidates energy. With fewer conversations, fewer opinions influence your direction. You become harder to distract. Distraction is the enemy of focus, and focus is the foundation of progress. Silence acts as a filter. Only what truly matters reaches your awareness. Everything else fades into background noise. When you move in silence, your actions become louder. Results speak without effort. You no longer need to convince anyone of your intentions. Consistency communicates commitment. Silence paired with execution creates credibility. People trust what they see repeatedly, not what they hear occasionally. This trust builds naturally. It is earned, not requested. Silence allows your work to introduce you. Introductions made by results are more powerful than introductions made by words. This shift changes how others respond to you. Even before success becomes visible, silence also protects momentum. Momentum is easily disrupted by doubt, comparison, and overexposure. Talking too much invites unnecessary feedback. Feedback can be useful, but too much of it too early can dilute direction. Silence preserves momentum by keeping your path narrow. You stay focused on the next step instead of debating the entire journey. Momentum thrives on simplicity. Silence simplifies. It reduces mental clutter. With fewer inputs, execution becomes cleaner. Clean execution produces faster progress and stronger confidence in your ability to follow through. Choosing silence is choosing depth over noise. It is deciding that progress matters more than approval. Silence is not isolation. It is intentional withdrawal for growth. You step back to move forward with strength. In silence, discipline becomes easier because distractions are minimized. Focus sharpens naturally. You stop reacting to the world and start shaping your own direction. Silence does not mean invisibility. It means preparation. Preparation builds power quietly. Power reveals itself through results, presence, and unshakable confidence developed away from unnecessary attention. Focus is the great separator between those who progress and those who stay busy. Talent without focus scatters, but focus without talent compounds. When attention is divided, results are delayed. Most people mistake activity for progress because they are doing many things instead of the right thing. Focus forces prioritization. It demands a decision about what truly matters now. Once that decision is made, energy aligns behind it. Focus removes noise and replaces it with clarity. Clarity accelerates execution. Execution produces momentum. Momentum creates visible progress in short periods because effort is no longer diluted. Talent can create potential, but focus converts potential into output. Without focus, talent becomes a distraction because it invites options. Options delay commitment. Commitment sharpens focus. When focus is sharp, learning accelerates. Skills deepen. Mistakes become feedback instead of failure. Focus allows repetition, and repetition builds mastery. Mastery is what people confuse with talent. In reality, mastery is the product of focused practice over time. Those who win are not always the most gifted. They are the most concentrated. They choose depth over variety and consistency over excitement. Distraction is not always obvious. Sometimes it wears the disguise of opportunity. Saying yes to everything is a sign of unfocused ambition. Focus requires saying no to good things to protect the best thing. This discipline feels uncomfortable because it limits options. But limitation creates leverage. Leverage multiplies results. When focus narrows, effort intensifies. You stop switching tasks and start finishing them. Finished work creates confidence. Confidence fuels further focus. This cycle accelerates growth faster than scattered effort ever could. Focus also strengthens decision-making. When your priority is clear, choices become easier. You no longer waste energy debating every option. You evaluate decisions based on alignment, not emotion. This reduces mental fatigue. Reduced fatigue increases stamina. Stamina allows sustained effort. Sustained effort produces breakthroughs. Focus protects energy by eliminating unnecessary choices. It simplifies your day. Simplicity increases speed. Speed compounds results. This is why focused individuals appear productive without appearing rushed. They are not faster, they are clearer. Many people rely on talent to carry them through inconsistency. That strategy eventually fails. Focus replaces inconsistency with rhythm. Rhythm creates reliability. Reliability builds trust, both internally and externally. When you trust yourself to stay focused, you take on bigger challenges. Bigger challenges stretch capacity. Capacity grows through focus, not talent. Focus teaches patience. Patience keeps you engaged when results are delayed. Delayed gratification is easier when focus is strong because you understand what you are building and why it matters. Focus transforms effort into impact. Without focus, effort is spent maintaining motion. With focus, effort creates movement. Movement is directional. Directional movement leads somewhere specific. Focused effort compounds because each action builds on the last. Nothing is wasted. Everything contributes. This compounding effect is invisible at first, but powerful over time. People underestimate focused work because it looks quiet. but quiet work done consistently produces loud results. Focused individuals often surprise others because their progress appears sudden, though it was simply concentrated. When focus is present, comparison fades. You stop measuring yourself against others and start measuring progress against your own standards. This internal reference point strengthens confidence. Confidence stabilizes focus. You are no longer distracted by what others are doing. Distraction weakens focus by pulling attention outward. Focus pulls attention inward. This inward attention allows you to refine skills, improve systems, and company. Correct mistakes quickly. Quick correction prevents stagnation. Stagnation is the enemy of growth. Focus keeps growth active and intentional. A single week of intense focus can create momentum that lasts for months. Focus compresses learning curves. It reduces wasted effort. It builds clarity through action. When you experience the power of focus, it changes how you approach everything. You stop chasing shortcuts and start trusting process. Process rewards focus. Talent may open doors, but focus determines how far you walk through them. The person who learns to focus deeply gains an advantage that cannot be easily copied because it requires discipline, patience, and commitment to sustained attention. Beliefs operate like silent investors in your life. They either fund your future or quietly drain it. Every action you take is first approved by a belief, whether you realize it or not. If you believe effort pays off, you persist. If you believe it doesn't, you hesitate. Most limitations are not external. They are internal agreements made unconsciously over time. These agreements shape expectations. Expectations shape behavior. Behavior shapes results. This is why two people with equal opportunity experience completely different outcomes. The difference is not talent or timing. It is the belief system driving daily decisions beneath the surface. Many people confuse beliefs with facts. Facts describe reality. Beliefs interpret it. Interpretation determines response. When challenges appear, beliefs decide whether you see them as signals to grow or reasons to stop. Limiting beliefs often sound reasonable. They disguise themselves as caution, logic, or realism. But realism without UT vision becomes a cage. Growth requires questioning inherited beliefs. Just because a thought feels familiar does not mean it is true. Beliefs that once protected you may now restrict you. Recognizing this is the first step toward correction. Awareness exposes false ceilings you've been living under without question. Belief correction begins with observation. You must listen to the language you use internally. Words reveal beliefs. Phrases like, I'm not that type of person, or that's just how I am, signal identity limits. Identity limits restrict behavior. When behavior is restricted, results stagnate. Changing language changes interpretation. Changing interpretation changes emotion. Emotion influences action. This chain reaction begins with belief awareness. You cannot upgrade what you refuse to examine. The beliefs you challenge are the ones that no longer serve your growth. Questioning them is not weakness, it is evolution. Replacing a belief requires evidence. The mind does not accept new beliefs without proof. Small intentional actions provide that proof. Each completed action sends a message to the subconscious. That message becomes evidence. Evidence weakens old beliefs and strengthens new ones. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. One dramatic effort cannot override years of conditioning, but repeated small wins can. Belief change is not emotional, it is experiential. You become confident by doing confident things. You become disciplined by keeping small promises. Action is the language belief understands best. Beliefs shape risk tolerance. If you believe failure defines you, you avoid risk. If you believe failure instructs you, you engage. Engagement creates experience. Experience builds competence. Competence reinforces belief. This loop determines growth speed. Many people remain stuck because their beliefs punish effort instead of rewarding it. When effort feels dangerous, progress slows. When effort feels purposeful, momentum builds. Correcting beliefs reframes effort as investment rather than threat. This reframing changes how you approach difficulty. Difficulty becomes a tool, not a warning sign. Your beliefs also influence what you notice. Attention follows belief. If you believe opportunities are rare, you overlook them. If you believe they are everywhere, you recognize them. The world does not change, perception does. Perception shapes response. Response shapes outcome. This is why belief correction expands awareness. You begin to see options that were always present. What changed was not the environment, but the lens through which you view it. A wider lens reveals more paths forward. More paths create momentum. Momentum reinforces belief, strengthening the cycle. Beliefs determine self-talk during pressure. Pressure reveals belief quality. In stress, the dominant belief takes control. If you believe you can adapt, you stay composed. If you believe you are fragile, you panic. Panic narrows thinking. Narrow thinking limits options. Belief correction prepares you for pressure before it arrives. It builds internal stability. Stability improves decision-making. Better decisions improve outcomes. Outcomes reinforce belief. This cycle becomes self-sustaining. Strong beliefs do not eliminate difficulty. They provide capacity to handle it without losing direction or confidence. A single week of intensio. Now belief correction can disrupt years of limitation. Each time you act against an old belief, you weaken its authority. Authority shifts gradually. As it shifts, confidence grows. Confidence changes posture, tone, and presence. People respond differently to you because you respond differently to yourself. This internal shift changes external results over time. Beliefs do not need to be perfect, they need to be upgraded. Upgraded beliefs support action. Action creates momentum. Momentum builds identity. Identity reshapes outcomes quietly through repeated proof and intentional alignment. Consistency in private is the unseen architect of public success. What you repeat when no one is watching determines what people eventually notice. Private actions shape identity because they are honest. There is no audience to impress, no reward except progress itself. This environment reveals true commitment. When effort continues without recognition, character strengthens. Character stabilizes behavior. Stable behavior produces reliable results. Public moments are brief, but private habits are constant. Those habits quietly compound. What looks like sudden success is often the delayed effect of invisible discipline practiced consistently over time. Most people overestimate what visibility contributes and underestimate what preparation provides. Applause does not build skill. Attention does not create discipline. Only repetition does. When you work privately, you remove the pressure to perform and replace it with the freedom to improve. Improvement thrives in privacy. Mistakes become lessons instead of embarrassments. This accelerates learning. Learning deepens competence. Competence creates confidence. Confidence shows up naturally without announcement. Others feel it before you explain it. This is how private consistency translates into public impact without effortful self-promotion. Private consistency trains self-trust. Each time you follow through alone, you prove reliability to yourself. Self-trust eliminates hesitation. When you trust yourself, decisions become quicker and cleaner. Clean decisions save energy. Saved energy increases output. Increased output accelerates progress. This chain begins in private moments that seem insignificant. Skipping a task when no one knows weakens self-trust. Completing it strengthens it. The mind records these moments. Over time, they form an internal reputation. That reputation determines how confidently you move when pressure appears publicly. Consistency without witnesses also refines focus. There is no temptation to perform for approval. You work for alignment. Alignment sharpens attention. Sharpened attention improves quality. Quality compounds faster than quantity. Many chase visibility too early and dilute progress. Private consistency protects depth. Depth creates mastery. Mastery attracts attention naturally. Attention earned this way lasts longer because it is supported by substance. Substance cannot be faked. It is built quietly. When people finally notice, they see stability, not volatility. Stability commands respect without explanation. Private discipline strengthens emotional resilience. Without applause, motivation must come from commitment. Commitment is steadier than motivation. Steady effort builds tolerance for delayed results. Delayed results test patience. Patience sustains consistency. This cycle prepares you for public pressure. Public moments amplify everything, including weaknesses. Private consistency reduces weaknesses before exposure. You become harder to shake because your confidence is not dependent on reaction. It is anchored in repetition. Anchored confidence changes posture, voice, and presence. People respond to that presence even before success becomes measurable. Many quit in private because results are invisible. They assume nothing is happening. But growth is often internal before it is external. Muscles strengthen before they show. Skills sharpen before they shine. Consistency builds infrastructure. Infrastructure supports expansion. Without it, public attention collapses progress. With it, attention accelerates momentum. Private consistency ensures readiness. Readiness removes fear of exposure. You no longer worry about being seen because you trust the foundation you built quietly through disciplined repetition and intentional effort. Public impact is a byproduct, not a goal. When you aim for impact directly, you may skip preparation. Skip preparation creates fragility. Fragility cannot sustain success. Private consistency builds durability. Durable success lasts. Lasting success compounds. This is why consistent individuals appear calm under pressure. They have rehearsed difficulty privately. Rehearsal builds familiarity. Familiarity reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety VS performance. Performance reinforces belief. Belief fuels further consistency. This loop strengthens over time, producing results that appear effortless but are deeply earned. One disciplined week of private consistency can change how you see yourself. That shift changes how you show up everywhere else. When you know you did the work without being watched, confidence becomes grounded. Grounded confidence does not seek approval. It moves with certainty. Others feel that certainty. They respond to it. Impact begins internally and radiates outward. What you build in silence eventually speaks. Repetition turns effort into identity. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior creates outcomes. Outcomes reveal preparation that was never announced but always present.